Dashboard harness. Yeah, this is looks pretty complicated. The initial step is to lay this into the dashboard to get the wire runs approximately in the right place, and then start to hook it up. I think I've said before, I use a process of elimination. And concentrate on a certain area, resolve that, move to the next area. I don't. It's too overwhelming for me to consider the whole thing in one go. All right, so this is the driver's side. This is the passenger side. These are the connections down to the rear of the car on the passenger side, and then the same on the driver's side. This is the down to the rear wiring harness that goes to the back of the car. There's a telltale position for the harness because that bolts on to the left-hand side bulkhead. In the center, this bolts into the gap where the wiper connection is made for the actual linkage. There are a couple of other telltale signs. This harness is a very long one. Here, this goes out to the windscreen motor and also to the bottle washer motor. I think this is to do with something to do with the starter. It's very heavy. I believe this is the cigar lighter. This is also a very heavy core, although I'm not 100% certain on that. We'll figure that out. Now, I use these wiring diagrams pretty extensively, and they're pretty accurate from what I can, what I know of using them previously in the past. So this is the overall wiring diagram. Yeah, a real headache. What I like about this particular book, and it's worth spending the money on, is that it breaks it down. It's very pictorial. So this is the instrument panel. So this is the wire. This is the wiring for that instrument panel. And then it breaks it down by circuit. So this is the ignition charge and regulator circuit. I worked out where the alternator harness wires have gone based on looking at this. This is the fuel system. Fuel pump is in the back. This is for lighting, signal and flashes, reverse lights, overall ancillaries, and then engine ancillaries. So it makes it easier to understand what to do. One of the most important ones is related to the fuse box. So this is actually in the car. The fuses are numbered 1 through 8. Actually, I've just seen that cigar lighter, and it is purple. It goes into 8. Right, the other side goes to earth. Good, okay. So, regardless of what was in the car previously, I will try and follow this layout. The wires are positioned in the loom pretty accurately, fairly accurately, so they'll automatically indicate which sort of side they should be going to, and I won't fight the wiring, and I'll make sure that they're connected up to the right side of each fuse. Right, so the first job is to get this in and situated, and then start the actual connections. Okay, the dashboard harness is in and has been positioned relative to the alternator harness and the main harness. I was using a reference before when the harness was on the bench, so I just wanted to point those out. This is the windscreen wiper motor linkage, or windscreen wiper linkage opening that I was talking about. So this plate with that junction goes there, then the other one on the other side goes here. This is that block that you can see right there. That gives you left and right if you're confused about that at all. These are the connections going down to the rear harness on the driver's side. None of these are connected up at this point. This is all to do with the instrument panel itself. Here are the fuse box connections. Again, I've used this wiring diagram pretty extensively, which is shown here. You really do need to follow that. I've checked that now several times. There's a couple of interesting features that have stood out. I'll talk about that in a second. Obviously, the other side fuse box arrangement. The wires do tend to line up relative to the fuse. The wiring harness is very good at that. The relative lengths also give you a telltale sign of how to connect them in. There are 2 extra harness connections here which are related to instrument panel lights. There's an earthing connection also here which is related to these lights, and also this green and yellow connection on the other side. This is that cigar lighter wire, which is also a telltale. I'll talk about the starter motor relay related connections in a second. This is the connections for the right hand side. One thing you do need to remember is this loom that comes from the rear of the car that wants to come up through this aperture here. Don't connect everything up and then realize you haven't done that like I did. Right, so these are the connections to bring all of that together. One thing that was interesting to me is that this looks like starter related stuff here: brown, yellow and white, red and white. But it's obviously, maybe, it's like a right hand drive thing, maybe, I don't know. But I figured out, and I checked my old harness, in the old harness, that everything is cut back to the black tape except for the yellow. And then I've connected up this yellow and white to this yellow and white here. This runs out to the starter motor area. One thing that was missing out of my ancillary harnesses, in addition to these main ones that we're showing here, is that this is the fuel pump feed. So that connection goes across to the ignition switch, but it also connects into this white wire here, and that's missing. So I'm going to have to make that harness. In addition, there's this buzzer, door opening buzzer, that I absolutely hate, and it has a special door switch on the driver's side. So if you leave your ignition key in and you open the door, then that buzzer goes off. That's the switch for that. And then this is I'm assuming that's where the noise comes from. I have no idea. Anyway, I hate that thing with a passion. That also has a completely separate harness, and which is this one here. I can't trace this harness. It's not in any of the kit. I don't see a part number for it, so I might have to do a bit more homework. I'm highly, highly, highly tempted to not fit that because I hate that thing with a passion. So I'm going to step out now and show where the starter motor and windscreen washer wires end up. When all of this is installed with the instrument panel pieces in place, I'll make another video where showing all of it and put that to music of some kind. Right, it's complicated, but I take one piece at a time. It's complicated for me, I should say, and I use the wiring diagrams extensively to figure out what is going on. I'm very happy to see this in place. Okay, the wiring for the wiper motor and this red and white wire come from the dashboard harness, and they come out through this grommet on the side here. That is actually really difficult to fit because the connection for the wiper motor is really big, and it's very difficult to get it through that grommet. It's also very difficult to get it through that hole. Again, the sizing on some of the stuff that I found on the Jaguar is just a little like, why is it that tight? Doesn't make sense to me. Also, you'll see that I have another harness here, which is related to the starter motor and the starter motor relay. This is how that's connected up here. The yellow and white from this harness goes, you can't see the yellow. Yeah, there you can see the yellow is just there. Right, so this yellow and white goes also back through into the cabin. When you're trying to fit the grommet, make sure you've got both of those wires in place at the same time. Otherwise, you have to take the grommet back out and then fight that back in. This connection block there into the wiper motor. Gee whiz, that's yep, I took the wiper motor out again to be able to connect that. I've had those 4 screws for the wiper motor in and out maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. That is a difficult connection to make. Then we end up with the windscreen washer connections. It's fairly straightforward. And I have this 2 earthing wires here. They seem to be free in space. I don't know where they're connected to, and I don't believe there's anything else to go on in this area. So if anybody knows about that, that would be helpful. So progress. I'm going to try and fit in the instrument panel pieces now, and then ultimately connect them up.